What's up, everybody? You're back in here, Pro Football Pod. You've got Hulk, you've got Coach. We're hanging out, off-season, preview series keeps rolling on. We got the Pittsburg Steelers for you today. Steel City, baby. What's up, Coach? How you doing?
I feel like the Steelers got better, man. The most important position in football is quarterback, and their quarterback room has to have gotten better. I mean, Kenny Pickett was obviously not the guy, you know. I get that he was from Pittsburgh and he was a gruff, and tough type of dude. But Pennsylvania life is not all that matters in the NFL. And between Russ and Justin Fields, I mean, they have so much more versatility at the position.
Well, hey, let's go ahead and dive into that. If you guys haven't done it already, be sure to hit that subscribe button down below. Once we hit 500 subscribers, we're giving away a free jersey of your choice. We would love for it to be a Justin Fields, Russell Wilson, maybe a Troy Fautanu jersey if you like to give some love to the big guys up front.
Probably TJ Watt, though.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, most likely. But hey, tell your friends, tell your homies, do it for the fans, do it for the family. Let's go ahead and dive in. Like you mentioned, they added Russ and Justin Fields. They also brought in Patrick Queen over from Baltimore, so a little interdivision movement there, and brought in Deshaun Elliott to give him some depth at safety from Miami. I like those additions there. They're really the only guys they lost were Mason Rudolph, Kenny Pickett, and then after these notes were done, they ended up losing Deontay Johnson as well.
Yeah.
And they traded him over to Carolina. So losing him, that's going to hurt. But okay, you're trying to build up these younger guys with George Pickens, and they drafted Roman Wilson along with Troy Fautanu at guard, can give you some tackle ability as well. Zach Frazier at center.
Big fan of Zach Frazier over here.
Love that pick. Peyton Wilson at linebacker, love that pick for him as well. Patrick Queen was a huge fan of that pick. Mason McCormick.
Peyton Wilson in like the 5th or 6th round too, like super late for the guy that was the fastest linebacker in the draft.
They got him in the 3rd.
It was the 3rd?
He was, every mock draft I saw had him early 2nd.
Yeah.
So it was still much later than what he was projected. Then they got Mason McCormick at guard, Logan Lee at defensive tackle, and then finished it off with Ryan Watts for corner depth. If for what the team needs were, and not to just bring them up because they're the team behind me here, if you would have given the Miami Dolphins this draft class, I don't think you would have been able to get rid of me on Twitter. Like, I would have been insufferable.
More than you already are.
Yeah, more than I am. I love this draft class, especially for what their team needs. If you're losing Deontay Johnson, Roman Wilson is where they got him is the best receiver you're going to get to fill that role.
Yeah. We had them in our mocks taking a wide receiver in the 1st round, and we got pretty much destroyed by the Steel Curtain saying that wasn't happening. That there was...
I want to say, out of all the teams that were in our mentions and in our comments about, oh, this is way off, this is way wrong, you guys don't know what you're doing, that's not how they would draft, I will say, Pittsburgh Steelers fans, you guys were the only ones that were actually correct about your team and what you were looking for. I respect it, and I will listen to you more in the future. That's all we can do for you right there.
And we were very high on Roman Wilson. Obviously, we wanted them to get Brian Thomas. Some way, somehow, he was the best receiver that was still going to be available around the time that they were drafting. Getting Roman Wilson, he's not the same type of a player, but he's a little bit safer, and he's a little bit more of what they need. They didn't really need a true number 1 target. They've got Pickens.
Yeah.
So, like, they're pretty solid at wide receiver 1. I think that he's going to have another year under him, and he definitely has a quarterback that's more willing to just maybe target him, even if he's not all the way open. Like, Pickett, it didn't seem like he had the accuracy to just kind of, like, thread it in there and give him the targets.
I'm pretty excited to see a Russell Wilson moonball thrown to Pickens, like, 60 yards down the field. Like, that's just going to be nice. Like, and I like how Roman Wilson is going to be able to work with George Pickens. He's coming in. George is the vet. So there's none of that animosity there with Deontay Johnson getting his targets. George is going to get his. You've got Roman underneath working that for you there. And I mean, Pat Freiermuth, another year in the league. Hopefully the guy can stay healthy this year. That's what we all want to see. And I loved the pick of Darnell Washington for him last year as their tight end too. Just absolute beast of a human being. You want to dive into some ADPs?
Absolutely.
All right. Shockingly, but not shockingly, especially right now because it hasn't been fully confirmed who the starter will be. Justin Fields is the higher of the two drafted quarterback. Justin Fields coming in at 164 overall. Russ coming in at 169 overall. They're going to be your quarterback two in any draft that you take. If you're waiting for one of them to be your quarterback one, I need to see your roster. Go ahead and hit us up at @profootball_pod on the Twitter machine there, because I want to see your roster if they are your number one quarterback, either one of them.
Yeah.
Not hating. I'm just really interested to see the strategy that you used.
Especially 27. Like, at that point, we should have been able to find at least one quarterback. Even whenever you have those leagues where some guy took
in a
four.
In a 12-team league, there's a chance you already have your two quarterbacks before you even get to them.
Yeah.
And we know why Fields is going to be above him. He gives you that extra rushing ability, so we got that. Najee, number 69 overall, number 20 running back, and Jaylen Warren, number 27 running back, 89 overall. With Arthur Smith coming in to call the plays, we saw what he did to our boy Bijan Robinson last year in Atlanta. Is it going to be the same there for Najee and or Jaylen Warren? Which of those two running backs do you like more based on the value that you can get them in the
Jaylen Warren,
sixth or seventh round, 8th and 9th?
I love Jaylen Warren last year. Najee Harris, it's hard to call him a bust, but as a first-round running back, he's never really, even whenever he was given the volume, he's never been a first-round running back.
So I actually like both of their values. I'm not drafting both of them,
but
because they're too close together to handcuff. But where you're taking Najee, you're more than likely you're taking him as your RB2.
Yep.
And where you're taking Warren, you're taking him as your flex. So I do like that in the sense of if Warren's my flex, I'm good with it. If Najee's my RB2, okay, I'm fine with it.
Part of why I like Warren is because he reminds me a lot of an early Austin Eckler. Not partially in his play style, but more than anything, it's in his efficiency. The reason Austin Eckler was
looks so much more explosive than Najee when he has the ball. And I loved Najee coming out of the draft.
Yeah.
I shouted from the rooftops for Najee to go to Miami. Didn't happen. Love that he's in Pittsburgh. But also, I mean, there's a reason Najee didn't get a contract this year. Am I correct in that? Najee did not get repaid this year, right?
I don't believe so.
I didn't think he did.
This would be his fifth-year option then, right? Or
correct.
Fourth. Yeah.
So looking at their wide receiver room, really you're only kind of looking at the two guys we've already mentioned, George Pickens and Roman Wilson. Pickens going at 58 overall, Roman Wilson going at 171 overall, 17th round there for him. I like both of those values for those guys as well. I think there's a lot of value to be had on this Steelers offense because there's not that many mouths to feed. So, like, the main guys are the main guys. Like, I think Roman Wilson, in the 17th round, you're going to get a guy who, yes, he's a rookie, but he's probably out of the gate going to get 4 to 6 targets a game.
If not more. I think that this year is whenever he takes it to, like, the actual true wide receiver one. There are, like, 4 or 5 wide receiver 2s on their team, like Devonta Smith.
Pickens is going to get 10 to 12 targets a game.
Oh, you're saying Roman Wilson?
Yeah, Roman Wilson in the 17th round. You're getting a guy that's coming out of the gate is gonna get 5 to 7 targets a game, 4 to 6 at minimum.
Because this team's gonna throw a lot more than they did last year, especially.
Well,
But
so you got screen passes with them, swing, like there's different ways. And looking at their wide receiver room, I mean, their depth chart leaves a lot to be desired. They brought in Van Jefferson. They've still got Calvin Austin. They brought in Quez Watkins and Scotty Miller. Like, okay, but I mean, there's really nobody on their depth chart that's like, oh yeah, they're gonna absolutely steal targets.
So if George Pickens is the top receiver on your board and you're trying to decide, should I take him or should I take some of the guys after him? After him is going T. Higgins, Tank Dell, Terry Mack, Christian Kirk, Chris Godwin, Jaden Reed, Calvin Ridley, DeAndre Hopkins. Of all those people, I think Christian Kirk has to deal with so much competition in his backfield or in his wide receiver room to be able to get the targets that he needs. Terry Mack has a rookie receiver or a rookie quarterback. He also has Jahan Dotson. Hasn't ever really turned it on. Like, George Pickens' ceiling is so much more unknown and so much higher than all of these players. Even some of the guys taken before him, like Devonta Smith, Keenan Allen, Amari Cooper. I might take Amari Cooper over George Pickens just because of what he's been able to do in his career and just in general, like how many targets he's been getting lately.
Yeah. If Joe Flacco was the starter, I'd feel better about Amari Cooper, but yeah, okay.
I hear you on the rapist, but
whoa,
allegedly. I'm pretty sure that that's not alleged anymore. But like even Malik Neighbors is going before George Pickens, and as like
no, there's no way I'm taking Malik Neighbors over George Pickens.
Yeah, it just doesn't. It doesn't compute for me. I think George Pickens is very underutilized and undervalued. If I can get him as my second, potentially my third wide receiver, I think that I'm very well set up in my wide receiver room. Especially if I get a top tier talent like an Amon-Ra or even like a Chris Olave, Marvin Harrison, and then I get George Pickens on my second pick. I'm very, very happy there.
Now, how do you feel about Pat Fry, 13th round, 16th tight end? So, tight end 2, or you absolutely just waited on a tight end and went everywhere else throughout the draft? How do you feel about Pat Fry as a tight end? Obviously, every projection is if healthy.
Cole Kmet, Brock Bowers, David Njoku. These are all guys that George Kittle definitely are all guys that I don't know if I would want to take before Pat Freiermuth. So I think on my board he's probably more around 11 or 12, probably like right behind T.J. Hawkinson, and that's only because of the injury. Hawkinson would be way up above him. Like I'd still probably take Jake Ferguson over him, but I'm happy with Pat.
What about Dalton Schultz?
So Dalton Schultz, I think he's going to be on a much better offense, and even though there's so many mouths to feed, it doesn't really affect the tight end position that much because the difference between Sam Laporta and George Kittle, with like there's like 6 tight ends going before George Kittle goes, is massively wide. But the difference between Dalton Kincaid and Dalton Schultz from 5 to 14 is not that much. So, like, I'm not getting so much more value from Dalton Kincaid that he's worth taking in the 5th compared to being able to take Dalton Schultz in the 12th. Like, you're getting more value. I'm not saying that that's not happening at all, but that's the same thing with Pat Fry. To get him in the 13th round, that's great. I love that I didn't have to get a tight end until that point. I would prefer to make him my tight end 2, maybe go back to back on tight end and get like a Dallas Goedert and a Pat Freiermuth. And if one of them can stay healthy, in different sections, then that helps me out a lot.
I like that. And plus, every time he catches a touchdown, you get to yell Muth in your living room.
Yes. I mean, that's what we're all doing this for, right?
Yeah, exactly. That's absolutely what you're looking at. So on the defensive side, because, we're just going to give the defense some love. It's not all just fantasy relevant stuff here. Looking at it, like I said, they brought in Patrick Queen, Deshaun Elliott. They drafted Peyton Wilson and Logan Lee for defensive tackle. Also brought in Ryan Watts for corner as well. How do you think the defense is shaped up to hold up there in the AFC North? I mean, they've got the Cuzzo, they've got Corey Holcomb Cole Holcomb back there playing linebacker. We love that. We absolutely love that. Shout out to the Hulkster.
The Ravens are projected to be the first defense in fantasy, and they were last year as well. Pittsburgh's projected to be 7th. I think that's pretty accurate. I think that Buffalo did get worse than them. Houston added some pieces, but they're still kind of young, still trying to figure things out. I think Kansas City's probably a lot better than them, and Kansas City's 6th. So it may be 7th to 9th best defense in the league, which is still, a top 10 defense means that you're getting turnovers, you're making big plays. When we made the Baltimore Ravens video, we said that their defense is so good because it's not about one player. If TJ Watt is on the field, their defense is top 10. If TJ Watt is not on the field, their defense is barely top 15. So I think that's really what it has to do with. We need to see TJ Watt playing 17 games for them to be able to compete on the defensive side of the ball.
I agree. I do think their defense absolutely got better. They didn't really lose anybody that just screams at you there. And the guys that they added, I like the way they're going to fit into their defense with the way that defense's play style is. Looking at their over-under, set at 8.5 right now, 10-7 in 2023. I love that over-under because they're forcing you to bet against Mike Tomlin and his over 500 record.
Yep.
Mike Tomlin never having a losing record. That's what you're betting on, because if you go on the under and you're betting on 8, that 8 and 9, that's a losing record right there. So how are you betting against Mike Tomlin?
So I'm not betting against Mike Tomlin, even though their division as a whole seems like it got better. The Browns seem like they got better. The Bengals seem like they got better. The Steelers got better. And Baltimore, adding Derrick Henry alone, made them better. They love to run the ball, and they finally have a true number 1 running back. If he can just not get hurt in the preseason or in the first 3 weeks, then he's going to break a 5-year-long curse that's been going on with that running back room.
All right, so I want to play a game with you here. So you think they're going over, right? Now, are they going over with Russ at quarterback?
I think that both of their quarterbacks are better than their old quarterback. I think that Russ can absolutely lead this team.
Okay, so who gives you more confidence in hitting the over, Russ or Fields?
Russ. And I know that that's not going to be a very popular opinion. Everyone's going to think that Fields is the better look. Everyone's going to say this. Justin Fields didn't have anything in Chicago, and he's got a way better roster and a way better coaching staff, and now he's going to be able to turn it on. But the reality is that the beginning of last year, we said Justin Fields isn't throwing the ball enough, and then whenever he started throwing the ball more, he started making more mistakes with the ball, and it wasn't like they just, oh my God, now they're so much better because he can throw the ball finally instead of running it. I get that he's super athletic and he can pull up a 70-yard rushing touchdown. For me, that doesn't have that much value. I need, whenever there's 1:15 left and you're down by 6, that I know you're going to put a drive together and you're going to win the game. How many times has Russ done that in his career? I get that he didn't the last year or two very well, but I think that that's an outlier on his whole career as a whole.
I agree. I would be more confident in the over there with Russ as well. If it's Fields, I think I do lean the under, just because Fields is more prone to make the mistakes. Yes, he is the more exciting quarterback, Russ, I'm hoping it is a bounce back year for him, and it's just the situation in Denver was just way too toxic with him and Sean Payton. Like, it just didn't work out. I mean, the guy got benched for the last couple games of the season simply because of contractual stuff. Like,
yeah, that's such bullshit.
Yeah, whatever. So
he
like
is 35. So like, but
yeah,
for quarterbacks,
like,
that doesn't
Russ
matter
was
that much.
He was an older rookie when he got drafted because
Yeah.
he was a fifth-year senior at Wisconsin when he played his final year. So I mean, he's getting up there. So Fields is absolutely the more athletic and more spry guy. But I mean, situationally, I agree with you. I think Russ is the more stable quarterback. I do want to see them implement packages with
Yes.
Fields, though.
Yes. Or
Because
even if it's
not
just
it's not like he's a gadget guy you can put back there at quarterback like
Taysom Hill.
Taysom, to where it's just, oh, he can throw it a little bit, so let's try to do it. Where Fields, like, no, we've seen it. Like, Fields can throw the shit out of the ball. And let's just, is it going to be consistent? And like in certain packages, it's like, bro, I need you this one play, hit this 20-yard pass.
yeah.
Like this one play. And like if they're keying on your run, it should be wide open. Like, so that's
And
my
the
thing
new,
for
the
him.
new kickoff rules.
That
I mean, I think that's why they traded a
can't-
6th round pick for Fields more than anything.
You can't put Fields. Like, I understand doing it. Like, if it was on Madden, yeah, absolutely. But you can't put your backup quarterback on kick return like that.
That you make a good point. I mean, they have that quarterback 3 that doesn't like suit up until the first 2 get hurt. So like, there's always that as an option if he gets banged up really hard.
Yeah. So Kyle Allen.
I feel you. I feel you. Yeah, you make a good point there. I guess you can't do that. I think that would be a lot of fun, and that's probably where he'd have so much value for their team because he is electric with the ball in his hands, and giving him that type of space.
Now, if you're in the playoffs and he's not your starter, and he's not your starter, or, you know, it's like a situation like must-win game, like, okay, I can understand it. Like, you're just putting your best athlete on the field to put the ball in his hands. I get it there. But, yeah, you're not going to be able to do that. So, Steelers fans, Steel City, if you're still here with us, we absolutely appreciate it. We love you guys. Hit that subscribe button down below, because once we hit 500, we're going to get you guys a jersey of your choice. One jersey giveaway for somebody. We would love for it to be a Steel City jersey, maybe a TJ Watt, possibly a throwback, Franco Harris, Jerome Bettis. You guys make the choice. Tell your homies, tell your friends. We love you guys. Peace out.